This is the song that got me through, and I'm your co-host, Anil Maharaj. This week, we spoke to our guest about the far-reaching impact an artist can have on someone's life. Our guest told us about the first time he heard Linkin Park, why it took him 4 years to figure out the band's name, and what Chester Bennington's death taught him about grieving. We also dove into the state of mental health treatment in Nepal, and somehow found out about Sarah's love of Nickleback. It was a lot of ground to cover in 25 minutes. If you want to be on the show, or find a playlist with all songs ever featured on the show, check out the link in our Instagram page and in the show notes. Or if you have any questions, email us, thesongthatgotmethrough@gmail.com. Now, enjoy the show. Hey Sarah, how's it going this week?
I'm over it, Anil. I'm ready to get back to life or whatever.
I thought you told me you were getting ready to go off the grid.
I'm going OTG all the way.
So, would you say major difference between OTG and off the grid? OTG just means not legit. You're going to be in a retirement home drinking gin.
Yeah, in Arizona or somewhere with a lot of dry heat. Or off the grid completely, northern Canada, freezing cold, living next to a polar bear.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad to see you. You've really fleshed out your off the grid plan. And yeah, no, I think that the only logical step after being locked at home for numerous weeks is to just completely go off the grid. So
I think so too. I just think that's the answer. Obviously, we're not opening up any businesses anytime soon. So, what better time?
yeah, and after watching that sketchy YouTube video you sent me yesterday around some conspiracies around the coronavirus, I'm ready to move off the grid with you as well.
Great. Were you able to watch it? I thought it deleted because of the just incredible content that they had.
Well, surprisingly, it said that the video was going to delete after 24 hours, and it actually did delete after 24 hours. I was able to watch the video, but now I have to get a new cell phone. So thank you.
Got it.
Yeah, perfect. So, our guest this week, go ahead and you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what your favorite conspiracy theory is?
I mean, yeah, there was thing like me and my roommate, we were constantly debating about where, like the virus was actually man-made or it's a natural thing, and we would just look on the facts and figures on the internet, and we would all make our own assumptions. But I don't know, man, just this thing is killing everyone.
Do not get me started.
Yeah, she's got some. What's your theory?
Oh, I would rather not say it right now.
All right. Well,
he's just going to talk about Linkin Park.
Yeah, I think that's what you're really here for. So why don't you give us a little introduction?
Hey, I am Siddharth Kafle. I'm currently in Virginia. Originally, I'm from Nepal. I work as a bar manager and kind of like a business associate for like few businesses over here in Virginia. I'm a very enthusiastic music listener. I love like rock songs and metal songs, and I worked as a social activist back in Nepal. That's to summarize what I would to tell about myself.
Well, definitely excited to hear your story. Can you tell us a little bit about the social activism?
I was associated with a Rotary Club back in Nepal. So I served for like 5 years over there. So which we did was like social awareness things, like doing campaigns and all sort of activities that like generally helps the people around us.
All right. And what is the song that you are going to be talking about this week?
So when I choose this song, I really didn't wanted to talk about this song, but I think this song now means a lot to me, and then I'm listening it a lot these days. It's One More Light by Linkin Park.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we can't give it a listen anymore. As we found out this week, we're not actually supposed to play music on the show. So, yeah, that was embarrassing. But
that's so sad for us.
I know. It's gonna be really sad when we get sued for our first few episodes. Having
Well, it'll be okay.
it will be. But dear listeners, if you have an inkling, go listen to One More Light by Linkin Park. We'll stop for 2 seconds here, and you can rejoin us. It's not quite as effective. Not quite as effective. So Sid, tell us about your connection to the song, to the band, to everything. Tell us your story.
Um, so back, it all starts back in Nepal, and getting music at that time, back in like 2002, three, was like very hot thing. We didn't had any kind of like a channel, MTVs or VH1 at that time, which would broadcast this music. Internet was a hot thing at that time. So luckily, like in 2004 and five, I got this a CD at the time, and there was this bunch of rock songs over there. And so the first time I ever listened to them was there. This was this concert by them. It was called Live in Texas, and then there was this one guy, skinny guy, and he was singing on top of his voice, and I was like, wow. All the thing that I listened at that time was a couple of Backstreet Boys song. Brian Adams was my go-to song at that time, and then I listened to him, and it was like, wow. I mean, like, is he singing? And I think like he might have a like a different voice or something, and then I didn't even knew what was the band. So I was like, internet was also a far thing back home. So it took me like a whole 4 years to figure out the band was Linkin Park. And
Wait, really? So like you heard them play and you didn't know who the artist was for 4 years?
nope, because the only thing in the CD, it was like, it was the song called Somewhere I Belong. And it was like LP0105 or something kind of like that code. I was like, wow. And then I used to, like search this thing. And nobody listened to that band at school or something. And I was like, wow. And then after 4 years, I was just like mumbling. And then one of my cousin, he was like, hey, wait a minute. Do you listen to this song? And I was like, yeah. That's the song. That's the song. I was like, which band is that? And it's like Linkin Park. Wow, it's so easy. Linkin and Park. And then I asked him, like, I was so curious about the band. I asked him, like, hey, what was the guy's name? His name was Chester Bennington. And then what's this guy's name? And I bothered him for like a whole hour about him. And then he was so frustrated on, the thing that I was asking about. And he said, like, here you go. And I got my first actual CD back home of the whole like first two albums of Linkin Park. And then that completely changed. It was like I was screaming. I was like, my mom used to yell at me so much. She would say like, your vocal cord would come out if you do like that.
This is this is like a really what you just said there is like very understated because I think most people can't even imagine a time where like they wouldn't instantly know exactly who they were listening to.
Yeah, that was the funny part about like coming from a country like where you still did not have any access to internet or something. I remember like using my first internet was a dial-up. Then it was a way long to wait, and then yeah, it is what it is back there. And at that time,
So is Linkin Park one of your like favorite bands, or is it just tied to a lot of this time in your life?
it's just like that's the only band like I would ever listen to every day on like anytime. If you play me any song of them, I would listen to them anytime. Even like every day, I listen to them because
Even now?
yeah,
I love that.
I'm kind of like loyal to them.
Well, and so okay, I'm loving the story so far. So you finally figure out who this band is after 4 years.
four
You
years.
bother your cousin for hours, and your cousin gives you I guess that's is that Hybrid Theory and Meteora
Yep. It was,
on CD, and where do you go from there?
so then I was like, I listened to all the song like on loop. Like, oh, this is thing. Now I was like, yeah, this song is good. And then the next day I would go to the school and tell about, hey, have you listened to this thing and not? And some of them told me that there was new album. I think it was Minutes to Midnight. It came out at 2008, and this was somewhere around 2009. So I listened to Minutes of Midnight, and then I was like, in Minutes to Midnight, I was like, is this the same guy? Like they're changing something. And then and Transformers, like What I've Done, was featured in Transformers too. So I was like, yeah, it's them. And I saw a video of them of What I've Done. Then it was like completely different thing for me after that. And I listened to all the three albums in a single day again.
Amazing. That's pretty impressive.
And so you're listening, and obviously, like they, God, I don't even know how many albums they ended up releasing over the course of the years, but uh, by the time that this song, "One More Light" came out, were you still in Nepal or were you in the US at that time?
I was still in Nepal, so yeah. So when One More Light came out, it was not one of my favorite songs. I hated this album so much.
And actually, I was reading about this album right before because I didn't really know much about it, and it seemed like a lot of people really dislike this album. And Chester Benningfield or Bennington had to like go out and defend this album all the time.
Yeah, and then now the meaning of One More Light, it states clearly, and I was like one of those bunch of hardcore fans who still, like who wasn't ready for any new, like the transformation from band. And I was still hoping, like, come on, we need to hear Bennington scream and Mike Shinoda rapping so hard. And and then all of a sudden, like on 20th of July, there was like this story. I would never forget this thing. So it was like midnight back in Nepal, and I was working with few volunteers back from UK, and one of the volunteer was also like a Linkin Park fan. So we were like, we were telling to each other like, what are we gonna do when we meet Chester, and then we made a plan. So I would go to a concert because I knew I could attend to one of the concert on November in Texas. So I was coming to the States on October. So I was well prepared for that. I even looked the tickets and everything. So once I landed, I would go to Texas, watch the concert, and come back. And the bucket list in your life, you just need to take that off. So and it never happened. And then that night was something very, if I recall right now, I couldn't complete it too. It's because it happened so, you know unexpected, because my phone was buzzing at that time. It was midnight, and I thought my friend was just sending me some text messages or something. And one of my close friends, she was like, said, Chess is gone. That was literally the sentence she told me. Chess is gone. And I was like, what? And I was like, she must be talking about something else. And then a couple of my friends, they texted me, like, said, I'm sorry for the loss of Chester. I was like, are you kidding me? And then when I opened it up, I couldn't sleep that night. I think I cried for the first time all night long, and it was shattered. And it completely changed my perspective, like my perspective of what I see things the day before and the things that I see now.
Wow, what's kind of crazy about the story that you're saying, and kind of just thinking back to the first time we met, I actually even remember joking around with you about coming to the US to see a Linkin Park concert. I didn't realize that you were that close to actually going to see them.
Yeah, it was just like a month. This was on July. Yeah, like a few months, and I was so excited. I didn't tell that I was going to States to anyone else rather than my family. And I was like so excited. I would tell my mom, you know what? I'm going to click a picture and I would send it to you right away. And even like she called me the next day. She was like, "Did you hear what happened?" And I was like, "Did you cry?" Yes. And she was also kind of like on a sad tone
Man,
that, sorry about it and this and that.
I would also say, like, one other piece that's definitely understated is it's not necessarily easy for people from Nepal to get visas to come to the US, even especially as a tourist. But like, it's very difficult for people to be able to get a visa to come here, and so to be able to both get a visa and be able to purchase the tickets in order to go see the concert, that's like that timing would have been absolutely incredible.
Yeah, one moment of your life.
Yeah. And so, kind of, how I know you were talking about the feeling the day before and the day after, but how did his death kind of stay with you?
And so after his death, I don't know why, I listened to this One More Light songs again, so whole album again, and then when it came with One More Light, it struck me so hard. It was like it was clearly said over there on that song. It was Chester clearly said, through the whole lyrics if you read from that song. And I was like, yeah, you know what? It was true because in life, no one, you would never know what you had, or you never know, like, if you don't have friends around you, you just see the moment thing, you just see the present thing. But what you ignore is, like, the past, or what you ignore is like people around you. And your mind tends to change you to the point where you don't see the bright side but only see the dark side. But you just need to redirect your mind to see to the bright side as well, because his music and this song, when I came to States and when I was having like a little hard time adjusting over here, I thought like I didn't have anyone, a lot of things. And then I would listen to this song and I would be like, wait, I don't have anyone over here, but I have friends back home. They are texting me, they are asking me how am I doing, and then yeah, I'm just like ignoring them and just like, drowning on my own pool of thoughts over here. And it completely shifted my perspective of seeing things now than it was before.
Wow. And so, have they released any music since Chester passed away?
No, after Chester passed away, the only thing that did it was like a tribute show at Hollywood Bowl. And it was that show was very difficult to watch. Like you expect Chester to be at front, but his voice is not there. He's not there, and it's so incomplete without him. And it's never been the same, but it's all to a new point now where it is you have to move on. Nothing seems to stay, like nothing stays the same forever.
You as you mentioned that, and we've talked about this before, but and actually, someone had spoken about this a couple weeks ago on our podcast. But there are definitely certain cultures where depression and mental health is kind of stigmatized or not spoken about. And I feel like that's kind of true for Nepalese culture, where you don't talk about these sort of things; you just kind of live with it.
Yeah, it's true. It's 100%. So, um, me, like, when I was back home, like all this, you have to live up to a standard where people expect you to do and you could not, and then you just like feel like you cannot do it. And then when I came to States, I realized like that frustration and like the sequence of things that leads you towards depressions is very clear, because if I say that to my parents that, hey, you know, I'm just like having a mental anxiety or some kind of thing, they would just, laugh at me. And do you want to go to a psychiatric, or, like, do you want to see a psychosocial counseling? That's a joke. So people just, like keep such thing with themselves rather than speaking out in public. But for me, I would love to speak on this thing because it is what it is. It's you who is facing it, and then you should be able to like express it to the other people so that like someone can help you. Not just like keeping by yourself would help everything out.
And as you've I guess you've been in the States for a couple of years now. Like, have you been able to have those conversations with people back home, or do you think it's stayed very
No.
much the same?
So when I came over here, and then I started to talk with some of the friends, and like having a campaign back home about like killing all the stigma against mental health over there. So we wanted to go and talk to the people, saying like, hey, as like your physical health, mental health also matters. And then I think we did some couple of psychosocial counseling over there, and I think we were able to at least tell people, if such thing happens to you, seek for some advice rather than pointing out to the person that he is unstable.
Is that something you continue to advocate for back in Nepal?
Yeah, if that's like one of a long term plan that I have, because if you come from like a developing country or something in Southeast Asia, health generally means physical health. And
Hmm.
if someone asks about mental health, and then, hey, this and that, and they are referred to as, you know a kind of like unwanted people on society, or like they are looked at in a very different way, and they think like they're crazy, or they cannot perform their day to day like activities, or like they're categorized as kind of like um unfit person in the society. So what I would love to like think talk about this back home, and this is something at this point of time the world really needs. And seeing everything around, this is the most important like health advocacy that we need to do right now.
Yeah. So I I guess we always try to ask kind of one wrap up question and at the end. And for this week, what I'm wondering is what what do you think is the next step for a developing country when it comes to introducing more mental health accessibility um, to their country. In many ways, I still think that the U.S. still has a very long way to go, but I can definitely see where you're coming from in terms of Nepal also having a ways to go. So, what do you kind of see as the first steps? Does it start with people just talking about it, or does it start with the government, or what's your kind of perception on that?
I think the change start with individual own self, because they have to be like fight for themselves to speak about what they are going through. It's not that even though they have a place to go and speak, but they have to be ready to go and speak on on behalf of themselves to that place. So you know it should be a kind of like a welcoming environment, where like having few separated areas, or like few clinics or something like that kind of thing, for just for like the mental health thing, so that, and a big awareness among the society about like, hey, as like physical health, mental health also cares that much. If someone's having a hard time, like just care about them rather than like suppressing them, or just just let them be who they are.
Seriously, that was an incredible story. It really was. And thank you for being like just completely honest and open with us about your entire story. It's definitely one that I'll remember for a long time.
Yeah. Welcome, Anil. Yeah, it's just like this kind of stories and everything that you have. If someone shares it, it's always so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sid, again, thank you. And everyone have a fantastic week.
Thanks, Sid.
All right, you too. Thank you, Sarah.
Bye.
You guys have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.
All righty. Bye bye.
This episode was edited by me, Anil Maharjan. My co host is Sarah Harrison. Additional editing and mixing was done by Chris Maffei at Multitrack Minds. You can check out their full line of services at multitrackminds.com. Special thanks this week to Sid for telling his story. If you want to hear the music discussed in this episode, search Spotify for The Playlist That Got Me Through. As always, if you're interested in telling your story, submit the form on our Instagram page or email us, thesongthatgotmethrough@gmail.com. Until next time, don't lose touch. Oh, come on, Sarah. I thought you and Linkin Park went way back.
You're thinking of Nickleback.
Oh, I always get them confused.
People usually hate me when I say that. Yeah. I don't know a lot of other Nickelback fans, but I just like them. They're good, in my opinion.
Band-wise, they are hated band-wise, but their songs are cool.
I know.
Sarah, you're just defending your fellow Canadians. It's okay.
That's what everyone says when I say that I like them, and it's not because they're Canadian. I mean, yeah, great, but I actually genuinely like them.
Sarah,
what?
What's your favorite Nickelback song?
Oh gosh, Rockstar is a good one. That's the first one I ever listened to by them, and I was sitting in this convertible Mustang with my dad, and he thought he was a legitimate rock star in that moment. I think that's where my love started for them.
Oh my goodness.